Hey everyone, welcome. Open a little early so y'all can get in the room. Hope you're all having a good weekend, a good Sunday. I'm just gonna get in my thing now so I can see who's all coming in. It has been crazy windy here today. But it's calmed down a little bit, so I'm hoping that we won't have any outages. We haven't had so far. The other day when it was windy, we had some outages. So hopefully we won't have that today. Hi, Kathy. How are you? Miss seeing your face. See you at convention all the time. Hopefully we'll get to do that next year. And I hope y'all didn't find the prep too oppressive. There really wasn't that much to do. You are going to get sick of highlighting and shading bubbles, I think. But we're going to do a great job. We're going to have fun today. And just like I did last time, I am going to paint two surfaces, so that will slow me down. And it'll give you a chance to see me do the things twice. You can watch the first time I paint it and then go to your piece and do it the second time you paint it. Keep in mind, hello, everybody. You're all kind of filing in here now, and I so appreciate you being here. I have fun designing these things, and I have friends, one who's here already, that feeds me ideas. Maybe we should do this, maybe you should do that. And I love it when I hear that kind of stuff. And if it intrigues me, then I'll go and find something to paint like that. Anyway, keep in mind this is a live broadcast, so anything can happen. Um, and I will do my best to keep an eye on the comments, but if I miss your comment, I apologize. Maybe ask again. Maybe somebody in the room will answer it for you. If not, I will try to keep up on questions. It's a little hard when you're doing the live yourself. But anyway, so if you have questions or comments, go ahead and write them. And if I don't catch them now, I will definitely review the comments after the broadcast is over. And I probably shouldn't say this, but it's not going to take as long as last month's witch did. But boy, you guys, they all look so fabulous when you posted them online. I was so proud of y'all. And I just love her. She was a fun one. Anyway, this was a fun one too. So as long as we're just sitting here waiting for people to file into the room or the live, I'll show you what's on board for the next couple of months. And just in case you haven't noticed yet, let's see, let me get in here. I'll go to this. So next month, we're going to do these little sunglasses. And it's quick wood. You're going to need quick. Ooh, let's get where you can see it. There are a few things special that you need. Now, the sunglasses, I just got them at the dollar store. They're just regular old dollar. It's hard to see them because they're black and my towel is black. But dollar store sunglasses, round or oval. These are oval. And you're going to need quick wood, which I think you can still get at Bear With Us or wherever you happen to get your quick wood supply. And this is more than enough to do a lot. And you're also going to need Deco Arts paint adhesion medium. I think you can probably get that at Cupboard. Some kind of hand cream, not the kind that rubs in and disappears real fast, but the kind that kind of stays around on your hand. I use this Neutrogena hand cream that I got in the travel aisle, and that worked really well. That keeps the quick wood from sticking to your hands. And You'll need like a little piece of cardboard or something that gives you a little bit stiffer surface to work on, and some wax paper and your pattern. And all I did was I glued the pattern to a piece of cardboard and then taped the wax paper over it, and that's your workspace to put together your leaves and stems and stuff. So just a heads up on those things that you need for next month. And I'm just killing time here. Then we're going to be doing this guy, and he was a fun one to paint. And I sold out of the surfaces, but you can get your surface for the same price from Palette and Sawdust. So this is for April. This is April's piece. Really easy, not a lot of prep. And what's cool about that piece is the pattern's already etched on. And then for May, I just finished this. This is a tote bag for your kids to carry around when they trick or treat. So just a regular old tote bag that you can get at Hobby Lobby, Michael's, or whatever, or you can paint it on whatever you want. You can paint it on a banner. You can paint it on a piece of wood. It doesn't matter. But this is just a regular tote bag. So I'm up to May. Got it done. Working on June. So let's get back here. What time is it? It is 3 o'clock exactly. Well, look at all y'all in there. It's very cool. I'm seeing a lot of names I recognize. And thank you again. And just again, remember, this is live. I'll try to watch your comments and answer your questions as you put them in. But if I miss you, I apologize. It's a little hectic doing both things. So let me move this stuff out of the way. And we'll see about getting started on today's project in a minute or two. I recognize a lot of names from ordering the surface. So I got a Glowforge laser cutter. You see the commercials on TV. And so I'm learning the ins and outs of that. And I'm also learning the ins and outs of Corel Draw. And so a lot of these designs that I do, I've actually drawn them on the computer and then cut them and etched them with my laser cutter. So, aloha, man, Susan. I wish so badly I could go to Hawaii. We go every year, once or twice, and haven't been this year yet. So it's not very far into the year, but we do usually go in January. So I'm so glad you're here, Susan. It's been a long time since I've seen you. Anyway, so anybody have any questions to begin with? About stencils or anything like that, I did recommend that you use the shatter stencil, but if you have another stencil at home, hi, Lynn, you're welcome to use that. Anything that doesn't really have words on it would be good. Just something to break up the background. So let's see, where else? Oh, Arizona. I got you from all over. Very cool. Oh, you're going to Maui. Oh, Mary. Anyway, are y'all ready to start painting? Want to get this show on the road? You ready? I hope so. I am going to get you going so that you can get this done and enjoy it. So thank you all for joining me. So let's get our paintbrushes out and let's get ready to go. Do you have something to drink? I hope you do. So here we go. So we are painting zombie coffee, and this thing morphed so many different times from different things, and this is what it ended up to be. So I kind of like it. It's kind of cute, and I hope you do too. We are going to work on the purple part of the cup first. And so the colors you need are up there on the banner across the bottom. You're going to need wild orchid. If you didn't have wild orchid, you could just lighten up your lavender a little bit, and that would work just fine. But you're going to need wild orchid, warm white, and grape juice. That sounds yummy. I like grape juice. I have pineapple lemonade and iced tea working for me. Whoops, sorry. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to use that shatter stencil. So we're going to need some of our wild orchid, and you're going to need a stencil brush or a sponge or however it is that you like to stencil, and that shatter stencil. And what we are going to do is we are going to stencil this shatter onto the purple parts of the, let me move up here, purple parts of the cup, just to add some interest to those to that background. It's a brand new towel. I don't know if I want to wipe paint on it yet. Somebody told me I needed a new towel. So I'm just gonna stencil this shattered design with wild orchid. See how nice that looks? And it's kind of delicate when you get to some of those thin places on the stencil. So don't scrub it too hard. You don't want to break those. Doesn't have to be perfect. Thankfully, that's a good thing. None of my stuff ever has to be perfect. Except my hair. I always like my hair to be perfect. Today, the wind did not help. All right. And then when you get up here, you know, kind of move that eye of that shatter somewhere else and stick some stenciling in here. If you get it on your label, it's okay. You can wipe it off or just float over it. It'll be okay. Okay. Getting there. Almost got one done. How are you guys doing? Oh, you can't hear me at all? Huh. Can you all hear me? You can, right? Maybe have you, Colleen, is your turn up the volume on your device? You could always go out and come back in. I'm going to assume everybody else can hear me. Okay. Yeah, I'm getting yeses on the hear me. So, Colleen, it might be something on your end. All right. So, everybody working on that shatter stencil or whatever stencil you have. Or no stencil at all. It's completely up to you. Oops. Got a little heavy there, but it's okay. Like I said, it doesn't need to be perfect. And you know me, I'm going to use a stencil on the background. I'm not going to leave it just plain. It's not, it just doesn't work for me. Okay. And let's do some more over here. Now, if you wanted to make this stand out even more, you could add a little white and go over it again, but I didn't want it to be that bright and in my face. But sometimes it's okay to do that. Okay, cool. All right. So you can put your shatter stencil away and save it for next month when we use it on our bat. No, in 2 months when we use it on our bat. So I'm going to wash out my stencil brush. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to dry brush some highlighting on the purple parts of the cup. And I think you can see it in your pictures, but it's going to go kind of right of center a little bit. And that's going to be with Wild Orchid, plus a touch of warm white. So, oh, I had to glue my favorite dry brush back together. And I wanted to make sure it was all dry before I tried to use it. So I'm going to pick up a little Wild Orchid on my brush that I like to dry brush with. It's the Langnickel Short Round Sable. And then I pick up a little warm white and just kind of brush mix it on my palette. And again, when I dry brush, I like to load the paint and rub it around on my palette in a circular motion just to work that paint into my brush a little bit. And your brush is dry. That's why it's that name. You don't add water to it. Okay. And then what I'll do is I'll wipe it out on my towel and I will go to my hand and kind of rub it around. And when I hit my hand, it's cool. Not cool like that's a really neat thing that you do there, like cool like cold. And as I rub it around in my hand, it loses its coolness. And that's a good indicator that I've taken enough paint out of my brush to be able to go to my piece. And so I'm just going to start dry brushing a little right of center. And that's where I want to lay down most of the brightness. But I am going to stretch it out a little bit across the center. But you notice this area right here is staying brighter. And I'm going to do the same thing below the label. And you should have to scrub pretty hard to get that paint off that brush. If it's coming off too easy, you're going to get smudges and blobs. And that just means you have too much paint left in your brush. Okay, and now I'll do my second piece. So I'm reloading because I ran out of paint. And I'm wiping it on my towel a little bit to my hand and to my piece. All right. Let's see. And I have to do the bottom here. And I think that's going to about do it for that dry brushing. So then you can wash your dry brush out. Wash it out good because we're going to use it again shortly. And then I want to dry it. And that's what kind of the reason I have the towel behind me is so I can wipe my brushes out on it and so I can dry my brush on it because I'm going to use this again in a little while. So I'm just going to dry it real good. And then the next thing I'm going to do is if your highlights, dry brush highlights aren't light enough, you can always go back and dry brush a little bit more warm white here and there. But I think mine are good, so I'm going to leave them that way. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to float some shading, and it's basically going to go all four sides. So on both sides of the label, down both sides, across the bottom, and under the bubbles with grape juice. So you want to get a brush out that is a nice brush to float with. You think I would have had my brushes out already. So, and in case you're wondering, I always like to use Winsor Newton acrylic flow improver to do my floats with. And if you ever took a class from me, you got a sample of it. And so that's what it's in this little container right here. And basically what it is it's like an extender, but it doesn't dry. So it doesn't take so long to dry because it's mixed with water and it doesn't get that sticky buildup. But what it does is it just kind of lets you have a little bit more open time on your floats, and it helps you to smooth them out. So if you're like me and you live in an area where it gets pretty hot and dry, and you have trouble with your floats drying out too quickly, you may want to give it a shot. And of course, that's on my website, but just in case you had a question about what I'm dipping my brush in, basically you use it in place of clear water. So, and another thing I love about it is I can float. I can just go right to my piece and float. And then I can take a mop brush and I can mop that float out. I don't have to put extender down first and then do the mopping. I can just float and mop. It takes away a step or two. So I'm going to go above and below the label with grape juice. Right? I'll do the other one so that one can dry. So above and below the label. I don't know about you, but my allergies have been acting up like crazy lately. So I'll warn you ahead of time, I probably will sneeze. I'm not sick. Just those pesky allergies. And below the label. Thank you, Kathy. I'm glad you like it. The flow improver. We can go down both sides. So here and down here. And now when you get these little V areas here, I call this a V area because it's a corner. It's always a good thing to, I can't talk today. I hope you can understand what I'm trying to say, to kind of round those corners out. Just take the paint and walk the color out just a little bit in those corners. So wherever you have a corner, just kind of round the corner and walk the color out. So like here, I could walk this color out a little bit in this corner. Let's go here. Again, kind of rounding that corner a little bit. And let's go here. I'm going to go up the side on the bottom. All right. So we've done it above and below the label. Now I'm going to go on the sides. And again, I'm just going to kind of walk that color out in those corners. So, are y'all thawing out in the eastern part of the country, the midwestern part of the country? Finally starting to thaw out. My sister was here from Texas. They lived in a suburb of Dallas, and they lost power and their pipes froze. So they have a little bit of a mess to clean up. Texas is just not used to getting that kind of weather. So I'm going to go below the foam bubbles. I called it foam. They're bubbles. Doesn't have to be perfect. You're probably going to hear that a lot today. And I'm also going to go across the bottom. So now we're going to go across the bottom. And I'm going to go under the foam. All right. So you should have basically all four sides of each part of the purple section floated with grape juice. Okay, now we need to add just a little bit of a brighter highlight down the right side. So we're going to kind of go in the center of that highlight that we dry brushed on before. We're going to do that with straight warm white. And it's just going to be a not too wide, just a little bit of a reinforced highlight down that right side a little bit. And if you try to keep it lined up a little, you don't want the top one over here and the bottom one over here. You kind of want to keep them lined up. Okay, and that makes it look a little bit rounder. So straight warm white, dry brush that final bright highlight. And you notice I'm not dry brushing quite as wide. So you want to keep it kind of thin, smaller area. All right, a couple of good looking cups there. Well, that didn't sound real good, did it? So you can wash your dry brush out. And dry it really good, because we are going to use it again. Now, originally, if you were to paint this at home, you would have left the tape on. You would done this part, and then left the tape on when you painted your stripes. But since we don't have the tape on, I'm going to we're going to line the highlighting, or we can float the shading on the outside edge, but we'll line the highlighting through the middle with a liner brush or a small round brush. But you are going to need The colors that are listed along the bottom of the screen, you're going to need burnt orange, golden straw, black plum, warm white, and fawn. So there's a little list of colors, but that's going to be everything we need for this part of the label. So burnt orange, let me find that. And then golden straw. If you don't have golden straw, you can use summer squash. And black plum. I hope you know that when you get your prep instructions, if you don't have a color, it would be really good to email me as soon as you discover you don't have the color, so that we can get you squared away with a substitute before class starts. And then we also need warm white, which we already have on our palette, and fawn. All right. Got those out. So we are going to line highlighting through the center of each stripe. Actually, what I mean by the center is we're going to line that highlighting up with that dry brushed highlighting that we did. So it's going to be a little right of center. So I'm just going to take my liner brush and pick up some burnt orange. Didn't add water, no water. Okay, it's kind of like a dry brush. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to line some burnt orange on that stripe. It doesn't have to fill the stripe up completely. And it's kind of hard to see because it's not that bright. But just line some burnt orange on that stripe. Just a little right of center, kind of in line with the dry brushed highlights that you did on the purple part. Okay. So I'm lining some burnt orange as a first highlight on this red stripe. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up some golden straw on that dirty brush. It still has orange in it. And I'm going to lighten up those highlights that I just lined. But here again, we're covering a smaller area. I mean, we're going brighter, so we're going to cover a smaller area. So I'm not going to go as wide as I did with just the plain burnt orange. I'm going to keep it a little bit thinner highlight. That one you can start to see better. So golden straw on your dirty brush. You're going to line a little bit brighter highlight. And then what I want you to do is we're going to float some shading. You could line it if you'd like to, but floating is probably just as easy. But you're going to float on each side of the red stripe with black plum. So just a side load float of black plum. And all I'm doing is kind of walking the color across a little bit. And we may have to come back and do it again just to get it dark enough to suit us. Or maybe not, whatever feels good to you. You want to do it with green, I don't, it's fine. it's your piece. Okay, so both sides, both outside edges of those red stripes are going to get a float of black plum for shading. So how are you? Am I going too fast? Basically is what I'm going to say. I was going to ask, are you keeping up? But that's really not fair. All right. So those stripes are done. So you're going to need your pattern out. And I kind of put, or you might have done this already, but I kind of gave you a little dotted line of the zombie pattern so you know where to place it, but it is a little bit smaller than the actual zombie piece. So you need to put that on so we can float some shading around where the zombie's going to go. So just really quick, slide your pattern under there or over there and just give yourself a quick little outline of the zombie guy. Here again, it doesn't have to be perfect. You just need to know where he's going to go. So just get this little pattern on. In fact, if you wanted to even draw inside the edge of this pattern a little bit to ensure that you cover it up, that'd be great. All right. So I got that done. That looks a little weird, like he has a big cheek there. I might take that off a little bit. Not so much. So we are going to dry brush some highlighting on the label around the zombie piece. There's no sense in dry brushing here since it's going to get covered up anyway. And that's going to be with warm white. So get your dry brush out again. And we are just going to break up that background a little bit with some warm white. Now it's probably not going to show real good on camera, but it's there and it does make a difference. I don't know why I'm being so careful about staying away from that zombie thing. It's going to get covered up anyway. And I got a little bit on my stripe there. Cut that off. Okay. Zombie coffee number 2 getting its dry brush on the bleach sand area that's around where the little zombie guy is going to get glued. Oops. Boy, did I get it on there. See? It happens to all of us. Now I did take my punchinello and just in the center area, not the above and below the red stripes, I did stencil some warm white dots. So if you have your punchinello handy, you can do that. This was just kind of looked like it needed a little bit more oomph. So I just added the dots around there. And I think it oomphed it up a little bit. I'm going to find my warm white back. There it is, because I ran out. Okay, so let's get some more over here. So just a quick little stencil of those dots on the background. They just brighten that label up a little bit. So again, I love my punchinello, you know. I kind of feel like my piece isn't complete unless I've used some punchinello on it. Okay, there we go. A little bit more interest added. All right. We're going to do a little bit of floating again. And what we're going to do is we are going to float fawn on the white part of the label, and that's going to go basically all four sides and above and below the red stripe. And also you're going to go around where you put that pattern on for the zombie. So you probably want to just check and make sure that your piece covers what pattern you put on. And then we're going to just start floating fawn shading. And I'd probably go top and bottom, or yeah, I'll go across the top. Trying to decide what order I want to do this in. I'll go across the top. And then I'll go under this stripe. And then I'll go under this stripe. Need a little bit more flow improver in there. All right, so I'm going to go across the top of the label with fawn. I'm going to go under the top stripe. And under the bottom stripe. You can go across the bottom of the label. You can go above the bottom stripe. You can float where the overlay is going to go, but you don't really need to. And above the top stripe. And you're going to do a much nicer job. So again, across the bottom of the label. Above the bottom stripe. And above the top stripe. Almost there. I have brushes that are shedding. I'm getting little hairs all over the place. Okay. Now you want to go down the sides, both sides, with fawn. Hi, Cheryl. Glad you can join us. So I'm going both sides. Here we go, down the left side. I also got a new towel and it's shedding a little bit too. And down the right side. So not only is this a zombie, it's a hairy zombie. So now we've got all four sides done and above and below the red stripe. So that now the next thing you need to do is float fawn around that pattern you put on for your overlay. And this one, of course, doesn't have to be all that perfect. Again, with the not perfect. But you can see what I mean by that is I'm kind of even going inside the pattern that I put down, just to make sure I have some shading behind it. And down here, underneath this bottom stripe, basically that area is all filled up with fawn, so you don't have to worry about that. And I'm just going to come up on this sleeve and around his little head and maybe a little bit over his head. So you see you have the outline of your overlay. You've shaded against that with fawn. And so again, just kind of keep it It doesn't have to be perfect. Just go around your little guy. Sometimes not being perfect is hard to do. I know, I'm sorry. Here again, that bottom, you don't need to float in there. And I'm going to come up the other side. And a little bit next to his head. All right, there are just a couple more places that we need to float color, and that's going to be with black plum. And so wherever this little overlay is going to go over the red stripe, you want to float some black plum shading there. So I'm going to go kind of like next to his head and around his little ear with some black plum. Then here it gets just the corner of his shirt down there. Think you can see that okay? Now I turn it over and I'm going to go this right here next to his sleeve and here right next to his head. Okay. Again, with black plum, I want to go, oops, a little too much paint there. I'm going to go in his head and around his little ear. And then here it's kind of the corner of his shirt. Just a little kind of sideways L shape float. A little easier on the other side because it's just a straight line. It's his sleeve. And then just a little next to his head. And that helps to put that overlay on top of the label. Okay. So we basically got the cup and the background of the label done. We're going to get to work on those bubbles. And you're going to need, let me get over here and give you the list of colors. And that's going to be, you're going to need lemonade, hauser medium green, burnt orange, warm white, and grape juice. And yes, you do have some of those on your palette already. So you just need the new ones. If you don't have lemonade, just lighten up your foliage green a little bit and that will work. Lemonade's an older color. And I have to shake mine because it's that old. Let me see what I got here. Okay, that'll work. Lemonade, warm white, hauser medium green. That's a new one on there. The rest of them you should have. So lemonade and hauser medium green are the new additions to your palette. So the first thing you're going to do to the bubbles is we are going to dry brush some highlighting inside each bubble with lemonade. And you're going to decide like the where we dry brush this highlight on the cup, the bubbles that are kind of on that side of that dry brush, you're going to do them on the right side. The bubbles that are on the other side, you're going to dry brush that highlighting in the left side. So just kind of keep that dry brush in mind when you're deciding which side you want to dry brush your lemonade in. So we're going to do that with lemonade. and your dry brush. So load in my brush. So I'm going to start and just dry brush some highlighting in each bubble. I'm not going all the way to the edge, okay? Just kind of keeping it into one side of each bubble. This one goes kind of to the edge because it's the cut edge, so that just happens. So, aren't you glad I put all those bubbles on there now? Don't forget, I have 2 of them to work on, so you don't have to hurry with yours. So now I've kind of switched sides on the highlight. Really doesn't take all that long. I'm just really glad I made them big bubbles and not little tiny ones. And how many of you are now singing tiny bubbles? I don't sing, so. So, here we go. I'm going to work on my second one while you leisurely work on your one. Or anybody painting more than one besides me? Late from Utah, Maryland. That's all right. You'll be able to watch the replay. You can just start where we are now and then do the rest of it with the replay. Do we have to call you late, or can we call you Marilyn? What's that joke? You call me late, just don't call me late for supper or something like that. I don't know. I'm going to change this one. On the other one, I did it on the other side. So my rules about where you put it, yeah. No, they're not hard and fast. They're made to be broken. All right. So we got that going for us. And as long as we're dry brushing lemonade, we might as well dry brush some highlighting on the green parts of our zombie with lemonade, as long as we've got it out there. And we've got it in our dry brush. So on the zombie, you're just going to dry brush some highlighting on his little hands. both little hands, just get some spots dry brushing. I'm going to dry brush a little bit on his little ears. So basically, I'm just scrubbing it on the outside edge of his ears, so I get a little highlight there. Because we all want our ears highlighted. Then I'm going to go across, basically all around his head. And his face. So you're going on his nose, on his cheeks, on his chin. Just basically avoid the eyes. So all over his face, just kind of avoid his eyes. Goes across his forehead, his nose, and above his mouth. There, cool. Let's go ahead and paint in his little eyes with warm white too, so they can dry. So just a liner brush and some warm white. And you can paint in that whole big circle of his eyes. Just one coat will do, because there is a lot of stuff on top of these eyes. And that way we'll be a little bit of a step ahead. Now he looks really scary. Okay. It's kind of nice having to not have to put the pattern on for some of this stuff, and that the fact that you can still see the etching through a coat of paint. Makes it a little bit easier and a little more less time consuming. All right, so eyes are painted in white, one coat. So we can set him aside for a little bit. So each of these bubbles is going to get floated with Hauser medium green all the way around. So what I like to do is I like to go through and float one side, like a C-stroke of Hauser medium green in each bubble, and then I'll go back and I'll float the other side to complete the circle. Oh, Marie, of course you are trying to paint too. It's just you. I'm surprised it's only two. So, side load float of Hauser medium green. Let's just go in and start floating one side of each bubble. So I'm starting at the top and the chisel edge and coming around to the bottom of each bubble with that first. And I'll come back after I'm done with one side and paint the other side the same way. And if your bubble has another bubble on top of it, you want to shade to separate the two. like this guy here, we could pull this shading all the way under this bubble and next to this bubble. So just work your way around. This way you can kind of straighten up your bubbles a little bit or make them rounder if you want. You can change which one's on top and which one's on bottom. Now I'm going to have a little bit of a, what do I want to, what is negative space here? And here, there's a couple places that are negative spaces. So you just want to float some hauser medium in those negative spaces too to fill them up. There's one over here. So I'm about tired of those little hairs. You'd think I had a cat or something. And there's a little negative space. I'll fill that in. Let's get this guy. So just, you can take your time and just figure out where you need to shade next to what, who's on top. This is like who's on first, you know. This guy's gonna have a float there. And again, if you have V areas, you want to walk that color out and round that V area out a little bit. Let's see if I can go to this one. Look at this area, and I'll go under here. As I talk to myself, because I can't talk to anybody else right now. Let's go here. See, I really need to clean up my bubbles a little bit. Some of them got really out of shape. And if you miss a negative space, it's okay. You can just wash in that area with a wash of hauser medium green. Isn't that an ugly, misshapen bubble? Let's get him back on track. Kinda. That's a drunk bubble. That's a little better. Not perfect. Again with the perfect. Getting closer by the minute. Okay, I'm going to set this guy aside, and I'm going to work on this one while you guys work on yours. I made all my mistakes on the first one. Hopefully I'll do this one a little better. Oops. And I shouldn't have said that. That was asking for trouble. I don't have any animals, but sometimes I swear somebody lets them into my paint room just so they can leave fur all over. All right, I'm about tired of floating bubbles, but I still have plenty to do. If you're already done, this would be a great time for you to take a potty break. Only if you need to. Yeah, I'm thinking I'm not going to do another one with so many bubbles. They're going to look totally different, so don't worry about them too much if yours look like mine, which I'm saying is kind of messy. You got a lot of stuff to add on top of them, so it'll be okay. Yes, you do, Carol. I was thinking about you the other day, how I hadn't seen you. And you were so excited because I was doing them on Sundays when you could take classes. All right. Now I'm going to go back and do the other side. So if you're done, you can just sing to yourself or twiddle your thumbs, go grab dinner. At least the other side shouldn't take as long because you already know where the float's going to go. And there's my goofy bubble. And you're probably saying, why didn't you just paint them hauser medium green? I don't know. Can't answer you that one. See this? You can tell this is going a little faster. Oh, they look pretty good on the screen, I think, for goofy bubbles. Let's see. I think I got them all. All right. Time for me to work on the other one. I'm not much of a small talker, so I'm sorry I'm not talking a lot and keeping you entertained. I'm just busy here floating bubbles. Yep. Should have made the bubbles bigger. All right. Halfway done with the second one. All right. Remember 2 or 3 years ago when we were working on the purple cup on this piece? Those were the good old days. All right. I can see the light at the end, or the bubble at the end of the tunnel. I think I got it. So now I'm just going to go through and wash a little color inside those negative spaces with some hauser medium green, just to darken them up. Anywhere else? Yeah, right there. So anywhere you have a little negative space, just put a little wash of hauser medium green in there if you didn't already float color in there. That'll just fill it up. Nice. All right. And let's see. So now you're going to float, and this is going to sound strange, but we're going to float a little bit of color in the right side, or, well, basically, you kind of decide which side. Most of it's in the right side of each bubble, with a wash or a very well blended out float of burnt orange is going to go in that right side of each bubble. And I know it sounds weird, but it actually helps to tie the piece together. So it's just a side load float of burnt umber, and you just want to blend it out. Maybe a little bit more than you normally would blend out your floats, because you want to soften it up a little bit. So I'm just going to go in the right side. And this one I'm going to start at the bottom and just kind of pull up a little bit. So I give that bubble a little tint of burnt orange in the right side. Oops, that's a little bright, but it'll be okay. I just wanted to kind of tie all the colors together, and that's really bright, but oh well. So I'm just going to add this tint into each bubble. And you can kind of use this to straighten your bubbles out a little bit too if they got a little wonky. So you don't have to make it a career. It should go relatively quick. But I just like the way it makes those bubbles look too. So I'll work on number 2. Oh, I gotta watch how I use that phrase. And there's a stupid hair. I don't know about you, but when I wash my hair and dry it, I lose so much hair. It's a wonder I have any left on my head. It's amazing. Mm-hmm. A little bright, but it'll be okay. It's all good. There we go. Getting there. Almost done with step number 3 of 35 steps for the bubbles. And you think I'm kidding. I'm very sorry, Linda. Linda's leaving us. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Perfect. Those are my filled words, my fill-in words. So we've done this burnt orange shading. Now we're going to float highlighting inside each bubble, and it's going to go on both sides, but it's going to be just a hair inside the edge of each bubble. So yes, we're floating highlighting on the things we just shaded and tinted with orange, but we're, excuse me, coming in just a hair off the edge. So you'll still see a little rim of that color that we laid down, and that is going to be warm white. And I think need to do this one. Oh, I didn't do, oh yeah, I did. Never mind. I lied. Never mind. So I'm going to blend out my warm white really well because I want it to be like a tint. But I'm just going to go through one side and float. And you see I'm staying off the edge of that bubble as much as I can. So I'm going to go one side, kind of leaving a little rim. And of course, the bubbles that you really can't see the other sides, you're not going to do both sides. So just a side load float of warm white on both sides of the bubbles that have two sides. This, by far and away, is the longest section in this whole piece. Has the most steps. Might be one of the shorter paragraphs in the directions, but because of the number of bubbles. This guy you're going to go on underneath this bubble to get that little edge. Let's see, I can get a little edge there. And one there. Think like a bubble, which is basically how I think all the time. That must be why I'm called an airhead, right? All right. The second one always goes faster than the first one. Your guys's are going to look so much better than mine. I can just tell. I can't wait to see them all when you post them. Please don't be harsh about how many bubbles there were. Okay. So now I'm going to go on the other side. You had no idea bubbles were so intense, did you? I said this wasn't going to be as long as the last month's class, but who knows? We keep doing these bubbles. Bubbles. Wasn't that the name of a whale? Yes, I do stay off the bubble. No, I don't stay off the bubble edge with the orange. The orange is right on the edge. But it's like it should have been a tint. Some of mine got a little dark. But I just went with it. It's kind of a wonky bubble too. Oh, done. All right. So there, we got that going for us. I'll do the other side on this one, and by then you should all have yours done, right? You're welcome, Sandy. Wah. Could get that a little closer to the edge. All right. Moving right along. Okay. Okay. And I tried having music before, kind of in the background a little bit, but if I have like the radio on, if a song comes on that's recognizable, then you get dinged for copyright. So that's why all the blank air space. So let's go and dry brush some highlighting in the bottom, kind of in the bottom of each bubble with warm white. And this you only have to do once on each bubble, so that's a good thing. So get out your little dry brush and pick pick up the warm white and we'll add some highlights in the bottom of each bubble, just to bump up the highlight a little bit. Now, if you can't get to the bottom of the bubble, that's okay. Don't worry about it. Forget about it. That's as much Italian as I know. It makes our bubbles look so much better just adding this. Well, it makes my bubbles look better. Yours probably look fabulous already. But it just helps them look more like bubbles. Okay. So warm white, just a quick little dry brushed highlight, kind of in the bottom of the bubble. Oh yeah, I'm feeling better about my bubbles now. I was feeling pretty bad about them. Okay, cool. You can wash your dry brush out. And then we are going to just take our liner brush and we're going to add these stroked on highlights. And one side is long and one side I missed on this one. But just wherever you feel like you want to put a long highlight stroke, and then opposite and to the top, if you can, there should be a little shorter stroke. Okay. So as you can see, I've kind of done some with the long one on the left side and some with the long on the right, but you can do them however you like. And I need to find my warm white back because I ran out. You know, I put these labels on the top of these things and then I can't find the paint. So, oh, duh, it's because it's different printing. I wasn't seeing it. So I'm just going to start adding some little highlights or some lined or stroked highlights. They don't have to be perfect strokes. Thank goodness, huh? And there we go again with that perfect thing. Probably would have been wise to start on this side so I didn't put my hand in them. Right? And if they're kind of dry brushed, that's okay. That's obvious. That is a good thing. And believe it or not, there's still one more thing we do to these guys. But I'm happy to say it's only one thing left to do. All right, let's see. Did I miss anybody? Yeah, let's put a little one right there. Let's put a little one right there. Okay. So here again, just your liner brush and warm white. You're just going to add a long highlight stroke where you can, and then a short one on the opposite side where you can. Not all of them are going to get that short stroke because you can't get into it. Okay, almost there. I think that's going to do it for that. So the next thing we're going to do, and I swear to you, it is the last thing. Just through this center area of the bubbles, we're going to put another little tint of grape juice. And it can just be in the bigger bubbles. You want to add a little tint of grape juice to really blend out that float well. And let me show you what I mean when I talk about blending out a float. Here's my grape juice. That's a pretty dark color. So what I'm going to do, I'll pick, let me find an area here. When I blend normally, you corner load and you blend in the same spot. But when I want to soften that float, what I'll do is I'll walk away from that line a little bit so I leave more paint on my palette than just blending in that same spot. You're keeping that same load of paint in your brush. So I walk away from it a little bit so it softens that float. So now I'm just going to go into the bottom of these larger bubbles and just add a tint of grape juice. And here again, all I'm doing is kind of tying the purple of the cup into the design, tying all the colors together. So just a little tint, maybe go on this one too. But it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 bubbles that get that little tint. Even my wonky bubble's going to get a little tint. So 5 or 7 bubbles, give them a little bit of tint of that grape juice, very well blended out in the bottom. Here's 3, 4, these 2, 5, and I ran out of paint. Let's do this guy, 6, I'll do this guy. 7. So just 7. I did 7 bubbles with a little tint of grape juice in the bottom. Yay! So this part of the piece we can set aside now. We're going to work on our little zombie guy. All right. Yay. I'm so excited to be done with him, with bubbles. Can you tell? So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to dry brush some highlighting on our little guy's shirt with golden straw. And you already have that on your palette. Let me get over here and change the banner. Oh, thank you, Norma. You're so sweet. Let's show this one. You're going to need golden straw, grape juice, wild orchid, which is probably dry by now, warm white, and heritage brick. So whatever colors you don't have on your palette, you want to add those. And if you need fresh, you want to add that. Let's see if I can find, and look for my wild orchid is dry, so I'm adding wild orchid to my palette. All right, goodbye, Linda. Thank you. And the heritage brick. And I still can get in my grape juice, so I'm good with that. So we'll get those colors out on our palette. And the first thing we're going to do is we are going to dry brush highlighting on his little shirt with golden straw. So I'm going to go through the center of his sleeve and just add that dry brush highlight. So both sleeves. And then the center of his shirt. This is a really quick and easy dry brush, not a gazillion layers or anything like that. So down the center of both sleeves. And the center of his shirt. And then you can wash out your dry brush. And we're going to use it again on his little face, so dry it out pretty good because his shirt shouldn't take that long. So he has stripes on his shirt, and those are just lined with grape juice. Now you want to make them white enough that you can line a highlight on them, unless you don't want to line any more highlights. But you want to just add those stripes to his shirt with grape juice. So think like a stripe on his shirt, though. Get even closer. Don't put them just straight. They all have a little bit of curve to follow the shape of like his sleeve. It's going to be kind of curved. And then across his body, it's going to be kind of curved. And you can go right through where the little crossbones are going to be. That'll be fine. I think I'm going to come from this. I'm going to do his sleeve first. And then I'm going to go across here. Right, so he's got stripes on his shirt. Now we get this guy's stripes. And the other sleeve. And we'll go across on the main part of the shirt. Okay, the dry brush that I use is a Royal Langnickel short round sable brush. Excuse me, I'm just answering a question. And let's see if I can find a new one. So when you buy them, they kind of look like this, or they might have sizing in them that makes it come to a point. I don't think I have a really new one. And after, I like to use them for building my snowman, for smooshing snowman, and I also like to use them to dry brush. And when you dry brush with them, they start to wear down a little bit. And this is actually the shape that I like them to be in to dry brush with. But they will wear all the way down to flat. And this is still okay to use for dry brushing. And they're sable brushes, so that's why they dry so quickly. But anyway, I like to use them for stippling and for smooshing, which is how I build my snowman, and for dry brushing. So hope that answered that question for you. All right, so now the stripes. We are going to line a highlight on the stripes with Wild Orchid, and then again with Wild Orchid plus Warm White. So you just want to touch a little highlight through the center of each stripe. Don't make it a career, just line a little highlight on each stripe through the center. I'm not being real particular or picky about this. It doesn't have to fill up the whole stripe, widthwise. You just want to get a different value of purple on that stripe through the center. Okay. And then I'm just going to, my dirty brush, I'm just going to pick up some warm white to make a lighter value of Wild Orchid. And I'm just going to line a little bit brighter. And here again, brighter means smaller area. So that little highlight line is not as wide as the Wild Orchid you put on first. So Wild Orchid plus Warm White. Just a little touch of it through the center of the Wild Orchid that you put on previously. All right. Bye, Laura. Now we're going to float shading on the shirt with Heritage Brick. Okay, so that's just a regular side load float. I'm wondering if, how would you feel if I started the class at 2 o'clock Pacific? And that then we maybe avoid dinner times, or think about it. If that's something y'all think would work better for you, just let me know. So I'm going to float all the way around under his chin with Heritage Brick. And I'm going to go on his sleeve next to the main body of the shirt. And on his sleeve next to the sign. let's go on his sleeve on the outside edge. This is all with Heritage Brick. Okay, I'll change the, I'm getting lots of things. The only reason I don't do earlier is because of church on Sunday morning. Hopefully someday we'll get to go back, and that gives me time to go to church and eat lunch. So if we start at 2, that'd be fine with me. So I will make the adjustments, and hopefully everybody will catch on that it will start at 2 on the 4th Sunday from now on. So I'm going to go on the sleeve next to his cheek, on the shirt and sleeve under his chin. I'm going to go on the sleeve next to the shirt. Again, this is all with Heritage Brick. I'm going to go on this sleeve next to the sign. I'm going to go on the shirt around the sign. I'm going to go down the outside of the sleeves and also down this edge of the shirt. I did not float shading along the bottom, in case you were wondering. So now the little crossbones that are on there, they're just painted in with warm white. And they don't have to be perfect again. Think like a dog bone. One coat will do. And what we'll probably do is let this dry and then come back and add the shading to it. So little crossbones on his shirt. So if I forget, remind me. We're going to come back and add just a touch of shading to those crossbones with grape juice, in case I forget. Now, we're going to work on the zombie. We already did that dry brushing with lemonade. We want to add some little cheeks with dragon fruit. You can see his little cheeks there. So you want to get out dragon fruit, I think, and country red and lamp black are your new colors. So dragon fruit, country red, and lamp black. Well, I put out enough country red to paint about 40 of these things. All right, so he has some little cheeks that are dragon fruit. And those are dry brushed. You can stipple them on however you like to do cheeks. That's great. Do it the way you like to do cheeks. I like to dry brush them. So I'm just going to put his cheeks on right on his cheeks, under his eye, next to his mouth. Makes sense. That's kind of where mine are. So I just gave him some cute little dragon fruit cheeks. And then he has a little lip. You just want to float a little color on the lip with dragon fruit. So I'm just going to color next to the bottom of the lip. Just going to tint his little lip with a little float of dragon fruit. Now there are a couple places I want to reinforce the highlighting. So you can get out some, if you still have your lemonade and can get into it, that's great. We're going to float highlighting in a couple places with lemonade. And one of those places is across the top or back of each hand. I'm going to float some lemonade. So I went, move out of the way. I'm going to go across the top of this hand and the back of this hand is going to get a little float of lemonade. I'm also going to float lemonade on the outside of his ears, just a little touch to brighten it up even more than that dry brush that we did on his ears. So just along the outside of his ears. And then I also want to go across his chin. So I'm going to go kind of from underneath his ear a little bit, all the way along the bottom of his chin with a float of lemonade. That just makes it look cuter, stand out a little bit more. It's a technically correct zombie. So a little below his ear. I'm just going to come down and around the bottom of his chin, back up to a little below his ear. And let's go ahead and go in his nose. Well, nope, let's go above his mouth first. Because if we did his mouth for second, we'd wipe out his nose. And in his nose. Okay? So he's kind of like he has a lemonade mustache. So a little float above his mouth and in his nose. So let's go back to our crossbones and float a little shading on them with grape juice. And that shading is going to be, you're going to decide which crossbone is on top. So you're going to float on the one that is behind to set the other one on top, if that makes any sense at all to you. So there, I set the bottom crossbone on going across the top of the other crossbone. You also want to touch a little color on the crossbones next to the sign. So I'm going to go to this other one and make one be on top. And this is floated with grape juice. And then I want to go next to the sign. And then there are just a couple little C strokes to kind of make the socket area of the bone. So I'm just going to do a couple little C strokes right, in here, just to make it have like where you have a socket in the bone. So a couple little C strokes. That one's kind of off. So I'll do it again. There we go. All right, so we have the bones done. Now we can go back to the face and hands. So we are going to float shading with Hauser medium green. That's, oh, come on. I had to crack mine open. So the first and easiest place that we're going to float shading is going to be on his ears next to his head. So on his ears next to his head. He looks better already. And some more paint. And let's go on his ears next to his head. Let's go on his hands next to the sleeve and across the bottom of that hand. So the top hand you get next to the sleeve and then across the bottom of that hand. Here, I'm going to turn him over, sorry. I'm going to go across this inside edge of his hand next to the shirt and under the sleeve. So I did under the sleeve, next to the shirt, and across this, which would be the bottom of his hand. So next to the sleeves and across the bottom. And on this guy, I'm going to go what would be the bottom of his hand. And next to the sleeve and shirt. I want to go under his mouth and under his nose. So go under his nose first so you don't wipe it out when you're doing the mouth float. So I'm going to go under his nose and under his mouth. And yes, that covers up the dragon fruit lip a little bit, but that's okay. Not completely. So I'm going under his nose and under his mouth. I want to do that little half of a C stroke that's inside each ear. Just darken that up. You have it's kind of edged on there. So you just want to go under that etching on his ear. We also want to go around the top of his head. So we're going to start kind of where that highlight on his chin left off. And we're going to float from ear to ear, going across his head. So I'm going to come here and go up and over the top of his head and back down again. And that didn't come out very dark at all. So I started here, next to his ear, up, across and around the top of his head, and back down by his ear again. So here, around the top of his head, and back down by his ear again. Hey, we're on page 2. We are going to float some color in the bottom of each eye, the whites of each eye with, there you go, the whites of each eye with country red. So just a quick little float of country red, blend it out good, in the bottom of each eye. All right, thought of one more place we need to do some shading. So I'm making his eyes bloodshot. All right. And with your liner brush and Hauser medium green, you want to line a shadow above each eye. So I start about halfway down the eye on one side, and I line up and around the top of the eye. And when I go at the top, I kind of flatten the brush out a little bit so it's wider. So I get that nice shadow up there. So start down about halfway on one side, come up around the top, flatten it out, and then come back down on the other side to your point. Just to set the eyes back in his head. Even though some zombies are falling out, this one still has his in his head. With liner consistency, country red, you want to line the little bloodshot veins in his eyes. Don't get too carried away, though. And you'll be happy to know that I do not line a highlight on these. So I'm just going to line some little blood veins. And these are just basically in the bottom, like half of his eye. You don't have to put it in all of it. You don't have to go all around the top or anything. So it shouldn't take too long. Just try not to make them look too much like trees. Which is kind of what they look like. So he's got little bloodshot eyes. And then the pupils, you're going to go ahead and paint those in with lamp black. Don't dot them because they'll take too long to dry. Okay, so lamp black pupils. And then you want to add a little warm white highlight in the top right of each eye, each pupil, not eye, each pupil. So just set down a little bit of a warm white highlight in the right side of each eye, right top of each pupil, I mean, not eye. I got eye stuck in the brain. So now his he has a little scar, and you want to line his scar, you want to line his nose around each eye and his mouth with thin black, and oh, also those little things in his ears. So thin down your black to liner consistency. And if you want to do this with an ink pen, you can do that too. I'm not too picky. So I'm going to line his scar, or his stitches anyway. I'm going to line those little things in his ears, just the little tops of them. I'm going to line his nose. I'm going to line just that center line of his mouth. Oh, and I did do a little tiny bit here. And then I did outline his eyes, and added some eyebrows. I keep seeing things I added. So just a thin little line of black around each eye. And then give him a couple little eyebrows, unless you don't want eyebrows. All right. So I'm going to do my other guy. I'm going to line his stitching, his scar, inside his ears. Going to line his nose and his mouth. Then I'm going to outline his eyes and give him a couple little eyebrows. Okay, now some eyebrows. We can move on to the next step. He has a little gash on his face, and this is only if you want it there, but a little gash on his face. And I just painted in that zigzag gash with Hauser dark green. I didn't tell you to get that out. So let's get out just a touch of Hauser dark green and give him a gash on his face. Because, zombies just have gashes. As far as I know. I mean, I used to watch Walking Dead. So just a gash. And then we're going to, if you want to, you can deepen the shading with Hauser dark green. Since we have it out, let's deepen the shading on his ears, next to his head, on his hands next to the sleeve, and if you want to, when his eyebrows are dry, you can also deepen the shading around the top of his head if you'd like. We're going to add the little blood dribbles with country red. So there's blood coming out of one ear. He's got a little dribble of blood from his scar, from one eye, from the corner of his mouth, and out his sleeves. And there even is a little bit around his neck. So those are just little, I want to say like comma strokes, but they're not really comma strokes. Drips. They're drips. So you just want to add a little drip of blood coming out from here and there. You can put it anywhere you'd like, really. Let me back up here. Whoops, that's not backing up. So I'm going to add a little bit down here to this sleeve. I'm going to add a little coming out of this ear. And let's see, corner of his mouth gets a little dribble. And his stitches up here get a little dribble. And then I also added some here under his neck. That gets the most. All right. And you don't have to do that if you don't want to. It's perfectly fine if you prefer not to add blood. I understand. So I did some coming out from under both sleeves. I'm going to do it coming out of his one ear from his scar or stitches. Oh, I forgot his little eye. There's a little bit coming out of one eye. His mouth. And under his chin. Do this eye over here and really each of those little spots is going to get highlighted with a little bit of warm white. So it's kind of just in the tip of each little dribble. You add just a touch of warm white. So they're a little more noticeable, especially these ones around his neck. Just touch a little warm white in them. I managed to do that without dragging my hand through things. It's a good day. All right. So I think that we can move on. Oh no. What I want to do to this gash is I want to take straight Hauser dark green and just line the inside edge a little bit, just to make it a little more definite that it's a gash inside of him. You know, we're going for realistic gashes. Not that I have any experience with that, but just line this bottom edge with a straight color of Hauser dark green. Now we can go to the sign. So you're going to need your dry brush again. And we are going to go and just dry brush some fawn, which is on your palette. Let me get to the sign. This is the last thing we have to work on. So you need fawn, lamp black, and warm white. So we are going to dry brush some fawn, and if you can still get in yours, you should have that on your palette. And all we're going to do is dry brush some of this fawn across this sign to darken it and give it a little bit of a, and we're not going for real wood grain or anything. We just wanted to age it up. That's the word I'm looking for. So dry brush horizontally across the sign with fawn. Cool. Then you can wash your dry brush out. And what we're going to do is we're going to paint the word zombie and paint in the coffee cup with lamp black. So the zombie lettering, we didn't do with an ink pen because it's a little bit thicker. And it's kind of squiggly and weird, and it has some little dots around it. So just kind of squiggly paint in the word zombie. This is great because if you're nervous, it doesn't matter if you wiggle too much. This is my favorite kind of lettering. I don't have to be real careful. Don't you love it? I wish we could do all the lettering like this. Almost as good as having a stencil. So then I'm going to paint in this, what I'm calling a coffee cup. Oops, my coffee cup got a little bigger. Obviously, it'll be okay. Okay, and then there are some little dots, just speckles around that zombie lettering. So you want to just take your brush and just tap, 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 tap. They don't have to be the same size, or it's preferred that they're not the same size. It's just like speckles around. Right, so I'm going to paint the lettering on this guy. Can you tell we're close to done? Yay. Okay. Just do my little specks now. And paint in my coffee cup. I don't know, that's just a swish under there. So you don't have to wash out your brush. You can just wipe it out. And you're going to pick up some warm white on that dirty brush. And you're going to line a highlight in the top of each letter and on the coffee cup. And that's with this black warm white kind of mix that you have on your brush. So just a little, so it's a gray in the top half. Make it squiggly too. And then I'm going to do the handle and on one side of the coffee cup and across the hash. So that gray in the top half of each letter, make it squiggly too. Even this little sign has a lot of details. And we're going to go to the coffee cup on the handle and across that little swish. Then wash your brush out. And if you feel like you need a little bit more highlighting on those letters or on that coffee cup, you can add just a touch of straight warm white. But it's completely up to you. If you're fine with the gray, then don't add the white. But I kind of like to pop it up one more notch. And that's not going to go, but just in the top of each letter. There's a little stripe that goes around the sign, and that's with country red. So just thin down, and thankfully, I don't line a highlight on that or shading or anything. We get away with just adding a line. So just a quick little border of country red around the sign. Here again, we're just tying in the sign colors to the rest of the painting because there's country red on the cup and there's country red on the zombie. So we want to add a little touch of country red here. Just a quick little border stripe. My house is going to be full of Halloween too. Although a lot of these samples that I'm painting two of will be for sale on my website shortly. All right, now if you have your little Sharpie or your Pigma pen, a fine line Sharpie works the best. You want to add the little steam, I want to call them steam S's, little S's of steam above the coffee cup You want to line coffee and you want to line it bites with your ultra fine point marker. Boy, my brain just went blank for a minute. So we're just going to quickly add this lettering. With our marker. Best kind of lettering. Good thing we didn't drink a lot of coffee. Oh, gotta do my little steam things. And it bites. Okay. Now, what I always do to my lettering, and I did it here too, is I always line a shadow to the top and left of each letter. And now it's completely up to you whether you want to do that or not. But you can see it here. I just lined a shadow to the top and left of each letter with fawn. And once you do that, I think you can basically call him done. So if you want to hang around and watch me do this, I'm only going to do one. And you're probably going to be the only one that knows it's there. But it's something I always do to all my lettering. So this should be, I didn't do it to it bites because that's too small. But I did do it on the coffee. And I also lined a shadow next to those little steam things and next to the coffee cup. So there you go. The next thing you need to do is just glue your little guy together. Get him on here. Glue him on. Add yourself a wire hanger and a bow if you want. And you can call him done. And hey, keep in mind there's a replay of this on Facebook. And there's also this will also be replayed on my YouTube channel, which is just search Sandy LaFleur on YouTube. And you'll be able to find that along with all the other recordings from the Halloween Addicts Anonymous and also other classes that I've taught where there are recordings available. So you have lots of things you can learn. And from the videos that I have there. And I just really appreciate y'all being here with me. Don't forget that March, we're going to do those pumpkin peepers with the quick wood on the dollar store sunglasses. And April is Let's Hang Out. And May is going to be the tote bag, the I Need Candy to Focus tote bag. And it's going to be 2 o'clock instead of 3 o'clock. And be sure to check out the teaching schedule on my website. And so you can find out if I'm teaching anything else you'd like to take. But because you stuck around, I'm going to give you all a chance. I have 7 of these surface kits left. So if you want to paint any more of these zombie coffee, you can go to my website and enter Zombie Coffee as a coupon code. It doesn't have to be all caps. It can be lowercase. And you'll get 25% off the Surface Kit, which makes it a little over $5. And this coupon is good for a week. So if you don't get there right away, but remember there are only 7 Surface Kits left. So just enter Zombie Coffee at checkout and you'll get 25% off. And this is only good on the Zombie Coffee Kit, Surface Kit, and it expires. So thank you so much once again. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate those of you who stuck it out with me. And I can't wait to see you next month. Okay? Talk to you later. Bye-bye.